Imagine a machine so massive it felt like a city, and so strong the world called it a god. On April 10th, 1912, the RMS Titanic wasn't just a ship, it was the ultimate flex of human ego. It was 269 meters of steel and mahogany, towering 53 meters above the waterline. Inside, it was a five-star hotel that happened to float, featuring heated pools, Turkish baths, and grand staircases that cost the equivalent of $400 million today. Everyone who was anyone was on that maiden voyage: millionaires, actors, and immigrants chasing the American dream. They were all told the same thing: this ship is unsinkable. But 4 days into the trip, that dream turned into a cold, dark nightmare. The Atlantic Ocean was a minefield of ice. By April 14th, 7 different ice warnings had buzzed into the radio room. The crew knew the ice was there, but they didn't slow down. They kept the Titanic charging forward at a breakneck speed of 21.5 knots. As the sun went down that Sunday, the temperature plummeted. The moon was nowhere to be seen, leaving the ocean looking like a sheet of black glass. Up in the crow's nest, lookout Frederick Fleet was staring into the void. He was flying blind because the locker key for the binoculars was accidentally left behind in England. At 11:39 p.m., the void stared back. A massive wall of ice, weighing over 1,000,000 tons, suddenly loomed out of the darkness. Fleet rang the bell 3 times and screamed into the phone, "Iceberg, right ahead!" The bridge scrambled, trying to steer left and reverse the engines, but you can't turn a mountain of steel on a dime. At 11:40 p.m., the ice brushed against the ship's side. It wasn't a loud explosion. It was a 10-second grind that sounded like a zipper opening up the hull. The designers thought they were geniuses. They built 16 watertight compartments, believing that even if 4 flooded, the ship would stay afloat. But that iceberg was a surgical killer. It sliced through the side, breaching 6 compartments at once. The math of the unsinkable ship suddenly hit 0. Within 20 minutes, Captain Smith and the ship's architect knew the truth. The Titanic was going to the bottom. The first distress signals went out at midnight, but the silence of the North Atlantic was deafening. The closest ship to respond was the Carpathia, but it was 107 kilometers away. Even at top speed, it would take 4 hours to arrive. The Titanic only had 2. Chaos began to ripple through the decks. There were 2,200 souls on board, but only 20 lifeboats, enough for barely half of them. In the confusion, the first boats were lowered half empty because people still couldn't believe the ship was actually dying. While the band played on the deck, a ghost ship watched from the horizon. The SS Californian was only 37 kilometers away. They had stopped for the night because of the ice and turned off their radio just minutes before the Titanic hit. Their crew actually saw the white rockets being fired into the sky by the Titanic. They told their captain, but he dismissed the flares as rich people partying. If that ship had turned its radio back on, hundreds of lives could have been saved. By 1 a.m., the bow was deep underwater, and the stern was rising into the air like a giant, dark tower. People were fighting for seats, while others, like Captain Smith, simply accepted their fate and stayed with the ship. At 2:20 a.m., the stress became too much. The Titanic groaned, snapped in two, and disappeared into the -2-degree water. For the 1,500 people left behind, the ocean wasn't just cold. It was a death sentence that claimed them in minutes through hypothermia.
But was it really just an accident? Over the years, the shadows have grown longer. Some say the Titanic never actually sank. They believe the White Star Line was broke and swapped the Titanic with its damaged sister ship, the Olympic, for an insurance scam. Others point to J.P. Morgan, the man who technically owned the ship. He was supposed to be on that voyage but canceled at the last second. Rumor has it he used the disaster to take out his business rivals who were also on board. There's even a story about a cursed Egyptian mummy in the cargo hold that brought the wrath of the gods onto the ship. The truth remained buried for 73 years. In 1985, explorers finally found the wreckage 3.8 kilometers down on the ocean floor. What they saw was haunting. The bow looked like a ghost ship, eerily preserved, but the stern was a mangled graveyard 600 meters away. High-speed scans showed the stern hit the bottom at 80 kilometers per hour, shredding it into a mess of steel. They found no 300-foot gash. Just today, the Titanic is being eaten from the inside out. Metal-munching bacteria are devouring the framework, and experts say by 2030, the ship will completely disintegrate into the sand. We spent over a century obsessed with its disappearance, only to realize the ocean is finishing what the iceberg started. The world's greatest ship didn't just disappear once. It is disappearing every single day. In the end, the Titanic remains a chilling reminder that no matter how much gold or steel we pile up, we are never truly unsinkable when we challenge the power of the deep.